mutations of the virus in the United Kingdom has led to particular worry, especially because of the kind of virulence with which perhaps it is spreading. And that's something which is of great concern. Well, to discuss all this with us, we are joined by Dr. Sreedharan. He is an honorary consultant neurologist at the King's College Hospital in London. Thank you, Dr. Sreedharan, for speaking to us today.
Hi.
If I can just begin by asking you, how concerned are you with the mutation of the virus, especially the ones in the United Kingdom? The report suggesting that it's adding to the virulence of this virus.
Well, the mutations are obviously very worrying. They've changed the protein, they have changed the virus so it spreads more easily, but it doesn't seem to cause any different kind of disease. So the severity isn't any worse from what we can see. The vaccines, most importantly, are still effective against this. So it hasn't mutated to the point where it's resistant to the vaccines. The government, very importantly, has shut down transport. They've, encouraged people to stay within their locality. Unfortunately, this means a lot of people are not going to be able to move around on Christmas. The plan originally was to allow people to mix over the Christmas period. That's now not going to be allowed. So that will reduce the spread of the virus. And at the borders, we've seen that there's been much less flow between Europe and the UK. That's partly because of obviously European nations and other nations like India now deciding to stop movement between the UK and their own nations. Now I think this is going to be temporary. Like with all the lockdowns, they've been temporary. But in a temporary shutdown, it can be sufficient to significantly reduce the spread of the virus. As long as people stop moving around and stop spreading the virus, then this will go away.
And as far as the vaccination program is concerned, government's still going ahead with that, and are they still confident that these mutations won't nullify the virus, won't be able to overcome, the fact that the vaccine is there? Because basically it's a spike protein. That's how the virus gains an entry into our DNA code. Is the government going ahead with the vaccination program, and how many people have been vaccinated so far? What's the program in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge program. As of yesterday, I understand 500,000 people were vaccinated. The program is going ahead. It's being rolled out across the country. It's the most vulnerable people and care home workers, the elderly, who are going to be vaccinated first. There's a very systematic approach to this to make sure that the best use of the vaccine is made. The people who are most likely to spread the virus in amongst the vulnerable are those who are also being targeted. And then people who work in hospitals will be given the vaccine as well. That will be happening very soon. In fact, it's happening right now. And in that way, the idea is to create this buffer zone so that the spread is dramatically slowed. People become resistant to the disease, and then the deaths will just stop.
What you mentioned is that right now the vaccine is working, but there could perhaps come a time when it would not be that effective. And that's a matter of concern.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is true. This is why, for some months now, it's been said that the virus is going to be with us for a long time, as in we're not going to be able to get rid of it. And this is one of the reasons, because it's going to be a bit like flu. That's the feeling. And the flu has been with us for a very long time. We have to get a new vaccine every year because it changes every year. So the previous year's vaccine may not be effective for this year's virus in terms of the flu. And the same thing may well apply for the coronavirus. So now we need to have, for the first time, a worldwide vaccine for coronavirus. And then next year, we may need another vaccine for a new mutated form of the coronavirus, one that is resistant to the vaccine. So the incredible genetic effort to identify this new variant and to identify other variants around the world it has allowed us to kind of, to some extent, be aware of this problem. So it was realized that something was awry when the previous lockdown in the UK didn't seem to be completely suppressing virus numbers. The virus numbers were going up. And then when they correlated that with change in the genetic sequence, they realized it was because there was a new form around that seemed to be spreading more easily. So it will take in time, as you say, the mutations may affect the virus and make it resistant to the vaccine.
And what you said is that perhaps every year for at least some time, we'll require a new vaccine, just like we have one for the flu, because each year the strain changes, if you will. But we've also managed to fix polio, and that happened when everyone got immunized. Can the same not happen for corona?
It's possible. People are trying to develop a vaccine against flu, for example, that will be effective for all flu vaccines. It depends on the epitope, as it were, the part of the virus that people design a vaccine against. So at the moment, I suppose the spike protein is what people are focusing on. There may be other parts of the virus that are better targets to generate a vaccine that is going to be effective once and for all. At the moment, that's not what people are trying to develop.
And very briefly, Dr. Sreedharan, what exactly is the spike protein and what is the virus attempting to do by mutating? What is the virus trying to achieve? And what is the spike protein? For the layman.
This is just, so the virus, the way it works is that it contains information that allows it and tools to allow it to burrow inside your cells and then to integrate itself into your own genome and then to reproduce. So to do that, it needs a number of different tools. It needs cutting tools, it needs transport tools, it needs editing tools. And it does this using a number of different proteins, one of which is the spike protein, which allows it to kind of attach itself and find a way inside your cells. It's not, in terms of the mutations, it's not doing this consciously. This is just evolution, right? So these viruses don't have any consciousness as far as we're aware, but they have this random, this tendency to vary. And we have the same thing as well as humans. We are mutating all the time. You and me sitting here right now, we're mutating all the time. And that is what is thought to lead to diseases like cancers, right? Our genomes randomly mutate. And the viruses do that as well. Some of these mutations are bad and they give us disease and we succumb. Other mutations are good and they might make us more smart. They might make us better at lots of different activities. And in the same way, different variants, different mutations in the virus have different effects on the virus. Some of them may make the virus weaker and it may disappear, in which case we never hear about it, right? We're not going to hear about a virus that disappears because it disappears. Some of them will make the virus stronger. And that's what this set of mutations appears to have done. Why it happened, we don't know, but it's the random nature of mutagenesis, as it's called. And it's partly, we think, due to environmental effects and just errors in the way that the genome, the DNA, or the RNA of this virus is copied from time to time.
That's right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sreedharan, for joining us from London. And I think an important point which you're making is that the virus is mutating, trying to infect us, find a better way of infecting us. But what's equally important is the fact that world over, it's been a concerted effort to try and make these vaccines which can defeat the virus. What Dr. Jameen Sreedharan talking about the fact is that we may need a new vaccine perhaps every year for some time at least until we can try and globally knock this virus out. But encouraging to know that, of course, all scientists and the world effort united in this. And what's also important is that India has suspended all flights from the United Kingdom, and that's till the 31st of December. All passengers, of course, who are coming in from the UK are going to be screened, and those who are found to be positive will be sent in for mandatory isolation. And this, of course, is a precautionary measure right now because of these two virulent strains, but even more virulent strains which are mutated from the COVID-19 strain have come to our knowledge. And that's, of course, the government advisory. But again, the good news is that the scientists are confident that the vaccine is working. And that's why the UK and many countries going ahead with that program. Dr. Sreedharan, thanks again joining us from the King's College, London. Thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you.